I'm Josh Snyder, and this is Thoughtful Discussions. And I'm here with
Grits Capone.
Ann.
Jeff Betten.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about what you guys do and where you started out. I'll let you go first.
Okay. So I'm Grits Capone. I am a spoken word and visual artist from the North Side. Um, I would say I got started about when I'm 29. I would say I got started about 14 years ago. I was 15 and I was in Miss Cleaver's 10th grade English class. I was kind of getting in trouble outside of school, but I wrote this poem called "Outside the Box" for Miss Cleaver's class, and she really liked the poem, and she was like, "Corey, this is amazing. Can I submit this to CMU's Martin Luther King Day celebration?" So I was like, "Cool, it's whatever." So she submitted the poem to CMU, and CMU decided that it was good enough for them to put in their booklet, and then they asked me to come and recite the poem at CMU. So at this moment, I didn't really know what was going to do in my life. I knew I'd like to do a lot of different things,
Yeah.
but I was like, okay, cool. And my mom was like, oh, Corey's a writer, so this is like, that's my real name, Corey. But she was like, Corey's a writer, this is amazing. So Miss Cleaver really took a liking to me, and she started like recommending different things for me to do, like journalism workshops over the summer and stuff like that. So I started to like pour myself into like writing, and I thought I was going to become a journalist.
Okay.
So then I went to Slippery Rock University. My major was journalism. The major was way too hard.
Yeah.
Teachers were like really, some of the teachers were like jerks. So at the same time, I decided to like, I was taking a lot of English classes too, like creative writing, creative nonfiction, poetry, stuff like that. So when I graduated with a degree in communications and creative writing. So I kind of like have a journalism background and I have a poetry background. Um, so in between this time, when I would come home on like like Thanksgiving break or Christmas break, I would go to open mic nights. One of the most prominent open mics that I went to was at the Shadow Lounge, which isn't around anymore. But when I went to when I went to the open mics, I didn't have a stage name. So, and the friend I was going with, he had a stage name. So I was like, yo, I need to come up with a name.
Yeah.
So one day I was on the bus and I was like, just drawing names, putting names together, and I was like, Grits, Capone, Grits, Capone. And I started to say it, and I was telling a couple of my friends, like, yeah, I think I'm going to go by Grits Capone. And they were like, yo, that sounds hard. So when I started to go up on stage, and they were like, Grits Capone, come to the stage, I just felt like really,
It felt like you.
Yeah, I felt like
Good.
a sense of confidence that I never felt before. So yeah, I would say that's how I got started into, spoken word and being a poet myself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sweet. How about you, Jeff?
Well, I mean, I've always been a musician. I'm probably about the same age as Grits over there, probably about like 15. I was a band geek even before then, but I picked up the guitar for the first time around then.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I've told this story a couple of times, but yeah, it's like around 26, 27. I met the guy who started Wild Kindness Records and got to know him pretty well, and then he was going to kind of like close the shop just for personal reasons, and then I decided I would I'd give it a shot instead, and I offered to buy the company for him,
Yeah.
a little bit of cash, and
Right.
just started trying to do it, signing all my friends. I called Chet Vincent and asked him if he wanted to put out his next record on Wild Kindness, and then word kind of spread from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what where are you at right now? I'll let you start. So, like, what are some recent achievements and all that?
Okay. So in collaboration with the spoken word thing, recently, I'd say over the past couple of years, I started to do the visual arts thing.
Yep.
And what catapulted me into doing visual art was that I was, going to different, I was performing at different places around the city. And what I was saying is like I would start to inquire about like getting paid, like asking people like, "Yo, can you pay me for this performance, etc." And there was just a real reluctancy to like pay me, to perform. So I just took it upon myself. I was like, maybe they won't pay me to perform, but if I have some merchandise that I have with me when I take to the performance, if I kill the performance and I have something for sale, maybe people will buy something off of me.
Yeah.
So I started to do like collages. So what I would do with my visual work is I'll do like a paper collage, and I would scan it into my computer and then play around with it on Photoshop, and then like make something totally different. So then I started to get the prints printed, taken with me with my performances. So people, slowly but surely they started to buy stuff. So that's kind of how I got a reputation as a visual artist too. It was really like something that I just wanted to do, kind of for fun and just to support myself.
Yeah.
In collaboration with the spoken word. So most recently, I completed a year-long apprenticeship with this organization called Contemporary Craft. I was the Emerging Black Arts Leader Apprentice. It's the first year that they actually had the program. And basically what this program was is to basically like get more African Americans into arts administration roles. So that's like, arts organizations, art nonprofits, museums, stuff like that.
Right. What's big coming up next?
So I have been, for the past couple of years, I've been writing this grant for this project in particular. It's a spoken word album. I don't want to tell the name because it's like it's a really good name. But either with the funding or without the funding, I'm working on my spoken word album. So that's something that I believe is going to be coming at least in the next year. And in the next year, I also want to start working on a book.
Cool.
You got any labels for that spoken
I
word?
I don't. So
He'll be shopping around.
yeah, we're gonna talk.
I might know a guy you can
Okay.
you can talk to.
I know a guy too.
All right.
I think his name's Jeff.
That's awesome. So, where are you at currently? What are some of the big things that happened recently? And also, like, who do you currently have under the label? Who are you working with?
Yeah, I mean we've had a lot of records come out in 2017.
Yeah.
Pretty much got all of 2018. Getting ready to Chet Vincent's got a record come out again next year. Andre Costello's working on a new album. The band called Honey is working on a new album, and that's just like locally. I mean, we're all over the place, like nationwide, internationally, and stuff like that too.
Right.
Of course, locally too. I forgot Mars Jackson's gonna print it right here at Revival, so gotta represent that. Yeah, we're just branching out. We're also taking on some distribution too. We actually just signed a label down in Austin, Texas, named called Keeled Scales.
Okay.
We're gonna help them out, and so it's pretty cool.
So you get to collaborate with some other record labels. So you have Wild Kindness. That was like that was the original.
Oh yeah.
And then is there any other? There's Mizra.
Well, Mizra's kind of the umbrella group now.
Okay.
That's kind of like taking in all of
Overshadowed a
these.
little bit.
Yeah.
That's
Mizra's the name on the paycheck at the end of the day.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's Wild Kindness is still underneath that.
Okay.
And I'm not directly involved with the A&R at any of these other labels that we're helping with distro, but
That's good.
it's we're trying to just kind of like help more small labels out if we
anytime you
can.
can work together, it makes sense for both of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
you said it.
Right. No, that's cool. So, recent achievements and kind of what you're up against right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was really fortunate. There was the website The Incline named me and a couple of our artists, Mars Jackson, Swamp Walk, Morgan Arena, as Who's Next Under 40.
Awesome.
In their music category. So
Awesome. That's big.
yeah, feeling really good about that. Not only for myself, but also the artists that we work with, and we hope big things for. So.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So what's coming up next for you?
Next is we're actually gonna do a holiday album. This is November now, so yeah, December 1st. it's very miserable holiday season's gonna be on Spotify and iTunes
Okay.
and all that stuff, and we're starting to plan volume 2 for next year. So
Sweet.
it all benefits the Sonny Pugar Memorial too, which is like a local charity that helps bring musicians into hospitals and nursing homes and stuff like that too. So it's raising money for a good local Pittsburgh cause.
Awesome. That's sweet. So tell me a little bit about what do you think is something that makes you different, and yeah, start with that.
It makes me different.
Yeah.
Now different as far as like,
Different as a person or different as an artist?
okay.
Yeah.
I think what makes me different is I think it's really popular now,
Mm-hmm.
but the idea of being a multidisciplinary artist
Mm-hmm.
is something that makes me very, I don't know if it's different, but I would say special.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this is because, like, I don't know a lot of people who have been in so many different types of media
Mm-hmm.
like me. So, for example, like, I've written for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I've curated an exhibit for the Associated Artists of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I've taught children all over the city of Pittsburgh in different capacities.
No, that's huge. I love
I've
that.
taught kids at Schumann Juvenile Detention Center. I've taught kids that go to private school.
Yep.
What else? Like I said, I curated an exhibit. I can rap. I can do poetry.
Mm-hmm.
I've performed at the August Wilson Center, the Kelly Strayhorn Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've had a solo show at Social Status. I've had, I've just done like a wealth of
Mm-hmm.
different things,
Yeah.
and they all of like, it's not like one of those things where my rapping is like okay, and then my poetry is like phenomenal, and then my visual work is like okay. Like everything that I do is like
At the level.
at the highest level,
Mhm.
or at least the level where I'm operating right now, where people are giving me a lot of like acclaim and accolades.
Yeah.
So, but I know I can always get better. But like, yeah, I think that's something that's really special about me.
Mm.
I do a lot of different things. I do a lot of different things well.
Right. What would you say to someone that might be watching that is trying to hone in on some skills? Maybe they're really good at one thing, but they'd like to branch out and do something that would complement that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously practice, but what's something like how did you get that? What was inside of you that you decided like I need to do more than just this one thing? Like how did you come to that conclusion?
The way I was thinking about it was like, I think of myself as like a lifestyle artist.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a couple different artists that like have influenced me, but like one in particular is like Kanye West.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the idea that like the music has to accompany the music. Like the music can't just be the music by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the idea that like, the music needs a dope video.
Mm-hmm.
The concert in and of itself needs to be dope, but also the tour merchandise needs to be excellent. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
everything is a part of one. So like me as an artist, like I'm not just operating as Grits Capone the poet or Grits Capone the visual artist. Like everything is interconnected. So I would tell like anybody who's like really interested in like doing more than one thing, it's like, practicing is very important,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel like understanding how your different brands or how your different passions work together or intersect, because if you play football and then you want to be a chef, those two things don't necessarily go together, so you
Right.
might be good at both of them, but if people don't understand how those connect,
Right.
then you're kind of going to be confusing people.
Yep.
So I think if you're a person or if you're an artist who wants to do multiple things, you have to understand how those all work together, and if
Right.
they do, because if they don't, you might need to just focus on one or the other.
And I've seen people do that where, they do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they're doing way too much of like a really broad spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
and then it makes them look cheesy.
Yeah.
Where to keep that class, you're saying stay with one along one line where it all kind of works together.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree. I mean, don't. There might be different motivations that people have. You know, they see money somewhere. Oh, I'm going to do this. They see money somewhere else. I'm going to do that too. And then they end up, you know, they're just people can see that from a mile away.
Yeah,
you're just chasing some money.
You can see the desperation when people are just trying to do anything. But you know, like I was saying, like make it make sense.
Yeah.
You know, like don't just do anything just because, like you know. Even if you want to do more than one, it's okay to be a jack of all trades and a master of none if that's what you want to do, but just make it make sense.
Love that.
You're not drinking any effing vodka or anything like that?
No effing vodka.
All right.
So for you, what's one thing that makes you stand out or makes you different or
Well, I always think about this story when I was in first grade, and I don't know how they did it when you guys went to school, but they gave us popsicle sticks. So they said, okay, here's 10 popsicle sticks. Yeah. Move 3 to the side, and how many are you left with? And every other kid took 3, and they just pushed them to the side, and they said, well, it's 7. For whatever reason, I didn't want to do it that way, so I was like building like a little like 3D pyramid with the sticks, and I was just coming up with the answer in my own way. And I feel like that's just how I continue to look at the world today. I'm just coming up with the answers in my own manner, and I'm just always thinking outside the box, and I just look at the world a little different, I guess.
I'd say I do the same thing.
There you go.
I think people have a lot of expectations that things are going to be going a certain way, and then when it doesn't, it throws them for a loop. Where for me, if it doesn't, I'm always trying to look at things positive, or I'm trying to look at things, how could I spin that and make it work for me or for someone else?
Sure.
Because there's always a way.
Right. Well, I think that a lot of people get locked into there's only one way to do things, and there's always going to be a different way to do stuff. It might not be a good way, but there's always multiple ways to do something. And so I don't know. I think if people kind of like kept their minds open to that it could help them.
Yeah, right on. What is something that you would tell a piece of advice or a piece of advice that you've gotten that has stuck with you, or something that, like, if you were to give advice to yourself 5-10 years ago, what's like one thing that would make a ton of sense?
Yeah, I mean, kind of building on that, I would just let people know that it's okay to fail.
Absolutely.
Because I've just, in business, it's okay to lose money as long as you realize why you lost money, and then you change what you're doing. Or in art, it's okay to like for a project to fail as long as you know why it failed. And I guess that's like the important asterisk. It's okay to fail, but as long as you learn from your mistakes and grow from your mistakes. But I think a lot of people, especially young people, are kind of afraid of failing and looking stupid or unsuccessful. So,
and I've heard a lot of people say, I waited too long, or I waited a while because I wasn't sure of myself, or I wasn't, and instead so you're saying just go for it.
Absolutely. Figure it out by doing it. I mean, a lot of people are amazed that I don't have a business degree, and
likewise.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I know you don't either. So it's like it's not a requirement to do what you want to do. You don't need a you don't need to go to Juilliard, to be an actor, or you don't have to go to Berkeley to be like, a world-class musician. Just start doing what you want to do right now, and learn. Learn as you go, like get better as you go, and just, that's how you end up doing things anyway, so.
Love it. What do you think is something that you'd like to see yourself like in the next 5-10 years? What's like a real big goal of yourself?
In 10 years, I am going to be worth $100 million.
Awesome. I can't wait.
So that's like the major goal.
Yeah.
I know it. Like, I speak it into existence. Like, I don't care if anybody else doesn't believe it. Like, I know it and I believe it.
No, it's good to have goals.
But
like.
So I would say in like 5 to 10 years, like one of the things that I'm definitely working on right now is my own brand, Deeper Than Grits. So that's like what is going to propel me, to the next level. Is taking my brand to the next level as far as taking my art and putting it on T-shirts, sweatshirts, really just branding myself with art
Mm-hmm.
and words simultaneously. You know, so like I want to be known as the visual artist,
Yep.
Grits Capone. I also want to be known as Grits Capone, like the poet. You know, the spoken word artist.
Mhm.
So, yeah, just really focused on, you know, taking it to the next level. In addition to my own brand, like, you know, possibly being a creative director of like a, you know, of like a clothing line or, you know, just like a business. You know, really taking my talents and focusing them on my own personal projects, but also being able to be utilized for, you know, a corporate America company that's like, yo, we love what he's doing. We need him on our team.
Yeah.
So, you know, that type of thing too.
Awesome. I'm excited to see it.
Thank you.
How about for yourself?
Well, so in 5 to 10 years, I'm gonna ask Grits Capone for $50 million.
I might help you out with 20.
See, that's a businessman. You negotiate down. I like that.
He's halfway there.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to grow our business. You know, not only we don't have shareholders, so it's not like we're trying to like increase the value of our stock, but just because, especially locally here in Pittsburgh, I want to help as many people as we can. And one of the limitations that I just constantly run up against, at least in the last several years that I've been running Wild Kindness in Misra, is that there's only so many hours in the day that I can work myself, and there's only there's a limited number of bands that I can work with at any given time. So, you know, like with, you know, Wild Kindness and these additional partnerships we're coming up with in distribution, I just want to keep helping as many, you know, other bands, other labels, other event promoters, other festivals, like as many people as I can help. I kind of want to maximize the good that I'm able to do in the city. So
that's awesome. So tell me a little bit more about like the day to day for yourself. You have a record label. People might think that you're just sitting behind a desk, and you know, a lot of people don't know what that entails. But you gotta figure out, you know, production as far as actually making the physical merchandise, the albums, CDs, whatever type of piece that might be. I've been lucky enough to be involved in some of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, so you're making that, you're setting up distribution. You have smaller labels that work with you because you have a distribution deal with a bigger distribution person. So they're kind of going through you to get there. And all in the meantime, like, you actually have relationships with the people that the bands, the musicians, the artists.
Yeah.
Like, so, like Mars Jackson, for example, like that's how you guys know each other.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So, like, but a lot of people would think like, oh, you're just a record label dude. You probably don't actually know these artists. You know, you don't actually hang out with them, but you do. You actually have relationships.
Absolutely,
with musicians, because you're a musician yourself, but also just as the label. Yeah, that's something that you have to do. Tell me, like, what is some of the relationships like? Are they more friendships? Are they more like strictly business? What's like an average day?
It's a week? The answer is a little bit in between. You know, you can't totally be friends because business has got to come in at some point. You can't totally be business because, you know, who wants to work with a label who only cares about the bottom line? So you gotta find that sweet spot. But I mean, we're definitely interested in the artists themselves, and we're interested in where their careers are going. We're not just interested in, you know, okay, well, like, you're a one-hit wonder and you had a hit single and now we're done with you. Like, you had your day in the sun, you're just a flash in the pan. You know, that doesn't interest me. I like you know, longevity. Yeah, most of the artists that we work with, you know, we end up doing several albums with, and so you know, and that's kind of what we're trying to foster, you know, these guys' careers. And a lot of you know, on Misra at least, there's a great legacy of, you know, like Destroyer just put out a new album, but his first record came out on Misra. And the Great Lake Swimmers' first couple records came out on Misra, and Phosphorescence' first album came out on Misra. So it, you know, indie labels play an important role as kind of like a, you know, kind of like a breeding ground or almost like a farm system for the music industry as a whole. So hopefully if we can foster that, you know, they'll go on to bigger and better things.
Right. No, that's kind of amazing to think of it from that perspective. Who, and this might be as like a record label exec or a different, someone in the industry, or a musician. Like, who's someone you look up to that you think that they're doing a killer job?
This might be a little inside baseball, so if for people at home, hopefully they Google this guy, because there's a couple of cool articles about him in Billboard and stuff like that. But Pittsburgh native John Esposito, who's now at Warner Nashville, is definitely one of my heroes and who I'm looking up to, because he just came in, and he has a great quote in the article that I just referenced, where he just went all over the country, like on the ground level, meeting radio DJ after radio DJ, and did the hard work that had to be done. In this industry, there's just not a lot of shortcuts. You have to just kind of get your hands dirty, and it's 1 inch at a time. So I really respect that kind of a work ethic in someone.
Awesome.
So this is like who I look up to.
Yeah, like who you look up to, who someone that inspires you, someone you think is just like killing it right now.
Okay, so one of the people that I've been looking at recently, his name is Virgil Abloh.
Mm-hmm.
He is the like founder and creative director of this clothing label called Off-White.
Okay.
He just had a major collaboration with Nike where he basically took like about maybe 9 different signature Nike shoes,
mm-hmm.
and he put his own twist on it.
Okay.
And they're like the hottest shoes probably in 2017.
Nice.
So I'm really big on people who I guess would consider themselves creative directors or curators. People who can kind of like see something, and they can see something different in it,
mm-hmm.
and turn it on its ear. So that's kind of like what I try to do with my work, and what really inspires me. So like, for example, like I said, Virgil Abloh, Kanye West,
mm-hmm.
Dapper Dan, who he was like a guy in the 80s. He's still alive, but he was like a guy in the 80s who basically took the high fashion monogram Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and he couldn't work for them, but like the drug dealers and stuff like that would come to him in New York, and like he would make custom suits for them, like custom made sweatsuits, custom made like leisure stuff. So like, he was able to take something that theoretically he wasn't supposed to have, and like just make it something completely different. And now like his a couple of his pieces are in like the modern MoMA, museums and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's like stuff that people might look as like that's lowbrow culture. Like he turned it and made it something huge. So that's what really inspires me. People who can like look at things,
find the arbitrage.
Yeah, and not see them for what they are, but see them for what they could be.
Heck yeah, dude. Love it.
Yeah,
love it. So starting a record label, or even if you weren't the one to start it, you still have kept it going for how many years?
Well, I took over Wild Kindness at the end of 2013, so it's been about 4 years right now. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Where's the time go?
Right. So, like, music is not the easiest thing to sell. People could download it, whatever.
Sure.
Music isn't the easiest thing to get people interested in, especially if it's new music, whatever. How do you like go over that obstacle, that hurdle of or do you even see that as a hurdle? Or
honestly, I go with my gut, and I trust my own instincts. I'm not looking at a spreadsheet or a data chart that says, Demi Lovato's in right now. Right. I sign bands whose music I enjoy and artists whom I'd like to work with personally. Yeah. And I just hope that at the end of the day that's going to be enough, because I figure, I'm pretty much a regular guy. So if I like this music, odds are pretty good that someone else out there is going to like it as well.
Right. What's the vetting process like? Obviously you like their music, but are there certain characteristics as people that someone needs to have in order for you to work with them?
Mostly I just want to know that there are people who are willing to work hard. I always tell the bands, this is like it's like carrying a piano up the stairs. I push, you pull. It's
Right,
gonna
right.
take both of us to get this job
Yes.
done.
And there are a lot of bands that want you just to do all the work. Of course.
Exactly.
So
There's
you
all
gotta
yeah.
weed 'em out and figure out who's
Yeah,
willing to put that
they
effort
just
in.
I mean I'll say that there's unrealistic expectations
Right.
that we need to just kind of dispel.
Right.
One of the myths of the recording industry. So it's a total 50-50 relationship. I can
Mhm.
only get them halfway there. They got to be the other 50%.
Gotcha. And are there some relationships where you have that you do a ton of stuff for them, or are there some where they want to do their own booking, they want to do their own merchandise, they want to do all their own stuff, and then you're just helping them with one thing, distribution, or you're helping them
Yeah,
with,
sure.
so
Well,
like,
every
kinda goes-
yeah,
everything's different, right?
every artist is different. Every
Mhm.
project is different. We don't have boilerplate contracts because of that reason. Everyone is in a different situation when they come to our label.
Hmm.
So it's just like the artists themselves, everything's unique. So it's never a dull moment.
Right. What is some of the most? I'm sure you've had people that reach out and they have some sort of ridiculous expectation, or like how do you not approach a label?
Well, I think the number one thing is I feel like I'm on some sort of email list because we actually say on our website right now because like we're totally full for the rest of the year,
Right.
except for Grits over there. But but we're just like not looking for demos right now. Like
Yeah.
we just kind of have. We're looking at everyone we want to look at right now.
Yeah.
But they still send emails and it's not even to my personal address and it's not even personalized. You could
Right.
tell that they just like they sent 500 of the same email to somebody, and it's like I think I've even seen that out there, but it's like
Right.
it's sort of like if you
Well-
give someone $100, you can like
Right.
it's like we have like the A&R contacts for like all these labels, and I have to be in there because I don't know how else it's coming. But don't do that. Save your money.
So be more thoughtful, be personable, reach out to each person individually. I mean, that sounds daunting.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh,
Well-
this person can give me 500 email addresses, and they're all active record labels, which is probably BS. But
Well, it's kind of like wanting a girlfriend. Do you just want a girlfriend and you're just going to ask every
Right.
woman you see on the street? Or are you in love with one person
Right.
and you want to take them out on a date? So it's like be specific. I really the ones that get actually a response, even if it's not going to work out, are the ones that are like, we really, like this record came out on Misra and it's really meant a lot to me.
yeah,
Just in my own personal development, or just, hey, you put out that record and
Right.
I thought that was really cool and I respect what you guys are doing, and just like, just like, why did you send me this email, or do you just want anybody to release this record? And if that's the case, why not
Love
put it out yourself?
I love it. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's huge. Just like be intentional, be direct, but don't just, don't try to go all over the place. Just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
love
if
it.
people,
I love it. People
yeah.
listen to that.
I don't
that's advice.
I don't believe that the record industry is dead, because if labels were dead, I wouldn't get so many submissions.
Right. Nah, that's huge. That's awesome. Tell me, for you, what's been one of your biggest obstacles, and how have you overcome it?
Biggest obstacles. I think honestly, it would be listening to other people versus listening to myself. And the reason I say that is because, like, of course everybody has to eat, everybody needs a day job, etc. But for me, I always knew that, like, the whole, like, 9 to 5, and don't get me wrong, because if I don't work a 9 to 5 right now, it's like a 2 to 6. But if the right 9 to 5 came along, I would definitely go to work.
Yeah.
But I just, for a long time, I knew that I didn't want to just be one of those, like, punch the clock, 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, blah blah blah. Like that wasn't for me. So,
Yep.
when I graduated college, I had a decent job after graduation, but for what I wanted to do, for the level of creativity that I had, it just didn't seem like a lot of people were like hiring for that.
Mhm.
You know, so it was like, going to this job and going to that job and like not really feeling appreciated. And then like, I was at my mom and dad's crib for like 5 years. Like I just moved out last year. You know
Okay.
what I mean? And my mom would always be like, Corey, you need to try to find a government job. Like you need to, or go in, get in with UPMC or get in with Highmark.
Yeah.
And I just knew I didn't want to do anything like that because I didn't want to be in a situation where they're paying me a decent amount of money. They're paying me enough money to not leave and to not follow my dreams. You know what I mean? So, and I feel like that's like the biggest curse to happen to like people my age is like, you'll graduate college or you'll, know that you need to find a job to support yourself. And then you basically, get put into a job where you're just getting paid just enough. You might enjoy the pay,
Yeah.
like you can go on vacation and stuff like that.
Sure.
But you're not following your dreams. You're not doing what you said you wanted to do when you were 5 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, I just knew that that's not what I wanted to do, and that, like, I always wanted to be a rock star. Like, I always wanted to, like, live how I wanted to live and do what I wanted to do and, like, wake up when I want to wake up and go to sleep when I want to go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I would just say, like, really, it's cliche, like, believe in yourself and follow your dreams, but, like, don't let the, don't let those mundane realities that everybody else buys into, like, don't buy into that. You know what I mean? Like, if you know that you are going to, create the next awesome burger that everybody is going to buy, make the burger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just
Gotta
make
let
it, and, like, don't worry about if people don't believe in it now. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Just keep believing in it. And, like, one person buys is going to turn into two. Two's going to turn into four. Four's going to turn into eight, and so on and so forth. So, it sounds really cliche, but, like, don't follow what's easy and what's, like, because easy is going to trap you.
Right.
Go for what's hard. Go for what's difficult. Go for what people don't believe in at first, because even if they don't believe in it now, eventually, people will catch on.
Right. Awesome. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, just to co-sign everything that Grits just said, because I, definitely relate to all of that as well. And to build on that, the author Michael Lewis has a great, a lot of thoughts on the matter, which I've, really taken heart, where it's just like the world has its own set of values, and that may not agree with your set of values. The world values, these certain traits, and they may not be what you're particularly interested in. And they will try, and the world will try to steer you into those traits, whether making a lot of money and having a secure retirement package or whatever. And so you just have to do your best to ignore that in order to follow your passion.
Awesome. Where can I find you both on social media? You go first.
Okay, so on social media, you can follow me. My name is Corey Carrington on Facebook, CoreyCarrington. You can follow me Deeper Than Grits or at Deeper Than Grits, DeePerthanGrits. Also, I have Deeper Than Grits LLC. That's the same thing I just said with LLC at the end. That's the brand that I'm pushing right now.
Cool.
You're not going to see anything if you follow it on Instagram, but just give it some time. You're going to see a lot of different things on there.
Turn notifications on.
Yeah.
You'll see
I'm
it when you get
working on a website. But yeah, as of right now, I'm just on Instagram and Facebook. And also want to say, everybody doesn't need to have the same social media following. Like, a couple years ago, I might get back on Twitter. Like, I was on Twitter a couple years ago, and I wasn't using Twitter for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I just like stepped away from Twitter. So,
Right.
So I just say that to say, like, your own brand, like, go with what makes sense for you. Like, you don't have to have every different social media account. Like, just go what works for what works for you. So right now, Facebook and Instagram are my two chosen forms of social media.
I'm sure we'll check it out. How about you?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I've got 3. I mean, I've tried Snapchat, but I'm like Snapchat wasn't happening, so I'm just sticking with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for right now.
All right.
I don't those are my core. I don't think I'm gonna expand anymore, but it's at Misra Records, MISRA, and at Jeff Betten, Jeff BETTEN on all platforms, and yeah.
Cool. I'm sure we'll check it out. Last thing, and you could both ask a question if you have one. A question that you could ask to people that are watching this, and they'll leave comments, and you can see the comments, and you can reply back to them.
A question I have for the audience. What is something artistic that you would like to see in the Pittsburgh community that you have not seen yet?
I love that.
What's something that you would like seen done,
Mm-hmm.
or any ideas? I'm not saying I want to take your idea. I'm just saying
Right.
I want to be inspired.
Right.
So, what's something that you really want to see done that's pushing the envelope creatively and artistically that you haven't seen done yet?
Love it. And it might be, I mean, people might want to see you do something. So
Yeah,
push that out there.
yeah. So, what's something creatively that you haven't seen me do yet that you would really want to see me do?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. How about yourself?
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want to have just like a follow up to Gris's and just be like, what's something, if there's something you haven't seen in Pittsburgh yet, my question would be like, why haven't you done it yet?
Yeah.
Or just like my other question would be like, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's hear it. Go ahead and leave a comment, like, share, follow, and retweet. Definitely check these guys out. And thank you so much for watching Thoughtful Discussions.
Peace.